everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Chelsea 1, Fulham 2 at Stamford Bridge. Fulham said Stamford Bridge is falling down. Judging by the fact it's Boxing Day, maybe we did fall down. But it's not about falling down as, is it Rocky? It's about how you get up. So hopefully we can get up against Ipswich. I don't know what kind of intro that was, but there you go.
Wow, sets the scene up nicely. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Not the greatest performance. Poor result. We took the lead and it was gone in about 10 minutes at the end of the game. So I think a lot of mistakes that we're going to learn from more than anything, and I think that's maybe why I'm not as furious as the next Chelsea fans, perhaps, because I think that we've been high flying. Things have been absolutely incredible on the pitch. We've been scoring goals for days, but we knew some point down the line a defeat would come, and so it did. But it's the third one since the start of the season, one coming from Man City opening day, second coming from Liverpool, and today for Fulham. If someone in summer told you that our third defeat in the league would come in December this year, having had the last 2 years, how bad they were, would you have believed it? And that's not to justify it and say it's okay, but it's just to actually say, look how far we've come and how good things have been. I agree that against Everton things were a bit flat. I think maybe today as well, a bit lacklustre in the front line. I thought we didn't have much of a connection there, but I thought Maresca was too reluctant to make changes, and I think at the end of the game that's maybe what hindered us from actually trying to double our lead and then fight for a draw, because at one point that's what it looked like we were doing. So yeah, poor things. And I think, in the last 3 games he's left subs way too late. It worked against Brentford because the game was truly won by the time he made his first sub, but then Everton, you look at it, 75th minute when things are looking a little bit rough, and today again. And it's not exactly like we're void of quality on the bench. I thought Felix could have come on. He's a player that I think, his qualities shine in the Conference League, great, but he's a player that deserves to play a little bit more in the Prem. And I think when we have started him and when he has come on, you do see him break up play a little bit. You see him provide that little element of risk taking that you need when you're in a game like that, where you're chasing an equaliser or you're looking for a winner. But yeah, we just looked a little bit flat going forwards, and it was like lacking luck, and Leno had a few saves, so it just really was this mixture of lacking that potency we've had in the front line, the clinical touch we've had in the front line, with a couple good saves, and also Fulham just not letting us rest, winning their one-on-ones. I thought we struggled massively with those one-on-one battles. Their players are very physical, they have a lot of physicality in the side, and I thought we just couldn't really cope with it at times.
Did you watch the Liverpool game, the one that Fulham drew?
Yeah, the draw. Yeah, absolutely. And I thought Fulham could have scored 3-4 games if they had a clinical touch against Liverpool. They had a lot of chances and they couldn't get on the end of some of them.
But that's the thing, especially Robinson, the runs that he makes.
Yes.
And I was speaking with people, and I had this conversation with Jacob. I said, "Oh, you've got Neto, who people said had a poor game." I think defensively it was great. I think it was really good defensively.
Yeah.
I didn't have an issue with it. I think we put in a massive shift, and people saying he's lazy. That does not compute in my head whatsoever. But then it's almost like what we've spoken about with Madueke as well at times. You've got a player who's doing so much defensively, they almost lose that energy when it's their time to shine at the other end of the pitch. So yeah, maybe it's just a chance for fresh legs. Maybe that's the key here, and it's not even much of a tactical switch. You don't need to change the whole system. You just need a different player, see if something else can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think lazy is the last word I'd ever describe Neto. His work rate is so, positive and impressive all the time, because he tracks back, he runs forward. But I think in a game like this, he was just a little bit less powerful on the one-on-one duels, and I think that's where he lacked a little bit, because Neto's such a good player at running at someone, taking them on, leading it to a cross or something, and I think that was lacking a little bit today. And perhaps it is credit to Fulham as well for making it happen, for shutting out our wingers, because if you look at how much threat we posed in the box, it was really, really limited at times. And then Jackson, he was too far out wide for me, and we had Enzo Fernandez at the top of the attack in the box. And when I know Enzo Fernandez has scored ahead of this season, but it's not really, you can't expect that to come through with a goal. But I just thought that 1-0, the lead was way too vulnerable. It looked vulnerable towards the end of the second half. It looked vulnerable at the start of the second half, and then it almost looked like it was a matter of time, like a bomb ticking, until Fulham would put one in our own net.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a bad performance by Fulham by any stretch. No. So even if it was a point, I would have said it's a fair point. But it just feels like don't know. I feel like we've really let ourselves down. I mean,
Yeah.
who do you blame for the goals we conceded? Where do you point the finger?
I think, you look at the goal, the second goal, the winner, that's the goal we've scored so many times this season, right? The team goal where it's almost like you take the game by the scruff of the neck, you put forward this amazing attack as a team, and that's what Fulham did today. That's what we were lacking. And again, I think they weren't going to settle for just a draw, because what you've seen with Fulham this season is they've drawn against all the top sides pretty much. They've made it difficult. They've had a lot of draws, but today they just almost saw the weakness in Chelsea and they thought, actually, I think we could go for a winner here today, and so they did. And I think we got a little bit frustrated with ourselves because it wasn't happening in the latter stages of the game. Sancho had an opportunity, Neto had an opportunity, and it was almost just like too close and not happening. So I think our players were a bit frustrated to a moment where we let Fulham take control with that last chance. Pretty much the chance they created for the goal, and it went in sadly. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lesson to learn more than anything, because like our standards are rising again. We should be absolutely disappointed with a result like that because we know what we're capable of now. But to answer your question about whose fault it is, I'd blame both the players and also the manager, because I think the manager could have made changes, but I think our players could have taken their chances a little bit better and perhaps been a bit more clinical. At times there was maybe a touch taken where it shouldn't have been. At times it was overhit a little bit. So I almost think we're a little bit messy with our kind of on the ball work today. But again, I'm not going to rage about this. Yes, now it's a draw and a defeat, but I think this is where we see exactly how far we've come. What does Maresca do? How do we challenge ourselves? How do we face adversity? What does Maresca do? I'm sure he's not going to leave subs late again, hopefully against Ipswich away when we go, and perhaps they make it difficult for us. But if anything, I look at this and I think, yes, we're going to learn from our mistakes. But if I know and I've seen what Chelsea's capable of this season, I'm not going to, like last season, drop my head and just be like, where to from here? Because I know what the best and almost the best looks like, right? We know we're not perfect, we have things to fix, but I think what we've shown this season and how things are coming together is it's already an improvement from last season. It was an improvement 2-3 months ago, and now it just seems like it's been getting better. But today Fulham actually fully deserved it in the end with how they saw out their win.
What about the midfield pairing? We had Enzo and Caicedo in there.
Yeah.
There's nobody to really take over any of their spots. So unless you're looking at, there's not really a nice way to say it, a downgrade with Sadie or Dewsbury Hall coming on, it's very difficult to rotate those positions. Whereas I know Mudrik's not available, and I'm not sure if Madueke's been available. Is Madueke available? Maybe he is available. I don't know. But in the wings department, for example, we have more options. That's my point, and it's almost like for like at times. You know what you're going to get from a Madueke or a Mudrik. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get from some of those other players in the midfield. So is this something we need to look at in January, maybe invest? I've heard that we're not really planning on doing much business.
No.
But is that something we should consider?
Well, on paper, no, because we have so much quality and depth in that department. But then you look at, like the players you just mentioned, I don't think they're quite ready to come on and play in the Premier League games. You look at Lavia, someone we signed, and on paper is exactly a player you'd need against a very physical side like Fulham were today. But sadly, he's injured. And you ask yourself, is Lavia going to be one of those Chelsea players that just never really kind of hit the ground running because of injuries, right? And they never almost have that kind of continuity. And you do worry about players like that. But I think maybe today, I thought because Enzo Fernandez pushed up so much and was really involved in our attack, that at times he left a lot of ground to Caicedo, which normally he's absolutely brilliant with. And, he was still there winning his draws, like going in for tackles, but then he was left with a little bit more work to do. So that meant Fulham in transition were a little bit, like their work was almost a bit easier. So, yeah, I think, again, I'd split the blame today, but for Maresca, this is a learning curve because you've got players there. Like, what does Joao Felix need to do to get some minutes? Come on. He's a player that takes risks. He's a player that doesn't get many minutes, so he'll come on and be like, well, why don't I have a go, have a chance? And that's kind of what you need in games like this. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a little tough. And, Alex, Fulham coming to Stamford Bridge and winning, like, for the history and everything, they don't come here and win. So it hurts a little bit from that perspective, but, like, heads up, we know what we can do. Maresca, come on, show us how you overcome adversity, show us how we can get better when making changes and needing to make changes. You do, and I'm sure we'll be absolutely fine.
How do you see the Ipswich game panning out? I mean, if we're looking at the starting 11 today, do you think that's going to change drastically, or do we think we're going to stay quite stringent over this period?
Knowing Maresca, he probably will rotate a little bit and he will make changes, and I think that we've seen it time and time again, and it works. It really does work. I think it's more in-game when what you've put out initially doesn't work. That's when you need to change it. But, you know, maybe we will see Madueke play in that game. You know, if he is available and if he is there for us, I do think Madueke will probably play. But, again, I'd like to see Joao Felix get some minutes, especially in games where Ipswich sometimes, if they decide to sit back at you, you need players that can break things up a little bit and provide you a bit of an element. And do you know what, Alex? This could be a little bit controversial, but towards the end of this game, Cole Palmer looked a little bit tired to me. He looked a little bit exhausted, and yeah, he got his goal and absolutely great, but especially against Everton, maybe I said to my dad, maybe Palmer needed to come off in this game, and maybe him playing full 90s game in, game out in the Premier League is not going to do much for him as a player to improve. Maybe he needs a little bit of a rest sometimes. So I think going into the rest of the season, these are going to be things that Maresca needs to kind of have a look at. Cole Palmer's absolutely brilliant. There's a reason he starts every game, and there's a reason he plays the full 90, but I even just thought at times in that game he looks like he lacked the full kind of energy that he always usually has as well.
I'm with you, Nina. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex.